Hey everyone, I'm Rachel,
And I'm Jen, and welcome to Devilish Bookworms, the podcast.
where we read and review books and release episodes every Tuesday.
This week we have What Souls Are Made Of by Tasha Suri.
Yay!
Wuthering Heights is a classic tale of love and loss. But what if this tragedy had ended differently? Catherine is a young woman who seems to have the world at her feet. What the world doesn't know is that her life isn't so enviable behind closed doors. The only person who really knows Cathy is Heathcliff, a man her brother despises and society shuns. The world sees Catherine Earnshaw as a gentleman's daughter, but soon it will see that she is hiding secrets of her own. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. As for trigger warnings in this book, I didn't see, and correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't see too many in there other than, of course, heavy discussion of racism. Um, there were other aspects. Did you see any other triggers that I may have missed?
No, I think you're pretty accurate with the racism that is like the biggest trigger of this book.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it is a big issue.
It is, but I mean, it's not one that everybody's ready to talk about.
Yeah. So just to start out, I want to talk about the cover of the book. Um, it is Catherine and Heathcliff, and they're standing in, you know, um, standing in the field or whatever, and it's all stormy behind them. I loved this freaking cover.
It's so simple yet elegant because I mean,
Mhm.
anybody could stand in a field, but the way that she made it feel was just like you could already tell that there's just so much like emotion running through it. But you know that there's going to be issues and love all in the same sense.
Yes. And I want to actually give a shout out because Suri made it a point in her acknowledgments to thank the people who were responsible for the cover. So Rich Deus is the person who designed the cover. Jonathan Barcott is the photographer. And then the models who played or who are portraying Heathcliff and Catherine are Neva Patel and Uzman Habib. So they did a fantastic job. I thought it was like it's just it gives just like in my dear Henry. I think that one was perfect for Jekyll and Hyde. Like it is very much that feel. This one was totally Wuthering Heights for me.
It definitely does fit. It really does. And it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Beautiful. So this book was dedicated to her dedication was for the librarian who let me read the classics in the adult section when I was 8. This is all your fault.
I thought that was kind of a really cute dedication, and I hope this librarian actually gets a chance to actually see this and be proud of her moment of letting someone read something that they maybe shouldn't have.
I love that. I don't think that we even realize, or maybe we do sometimes, but like the smallest things that we do can impact people so much, whether that's, you know, having them read certain books or like my uncle showing me different movies or letting me listen to opera. I don't think sometimes we don't even realize how much of an impact we have on other people.
I have to agree with that. And I'm going to preface this with a very, very short story. I had a customer come in one night and he was not looking great. He was in a rough kind of way. And I'm talking, he was drunk. And I refused to serve him and I made him go home. And not too long after that, I want to say it was like a month after that, he came in and he thanked me profusely and said that, if I wouldn't have done that, if I wouldn't have showed I cared in that moment to make him go home, that he doesn't know what he would have done. And in my heart, that makes me so happy to know that I helped someone that one time just by saying, no, go home. I'll see you tomorrow. That's all I said to him. And that one little thing. And every time I see him, he's like, I know I'm fucking up. I'm disappointing you. And I'm like, but you know what? You're going to be fine. You're going to get better. And I haven't seen him in months, and I'm so happy about that. So,
Yeah. And I bet anything like those little moments when you do show him that you care, not even just that one time, but like when he comes back, I bet that means the entire world to him.
and he has made comments where it's nice to know that someone cares. And even if it even if you don't have to make that big of an impact on someone's life. It could just be with a simple book, but
Mm-hmm.
that impact could be so devastating in the future. You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So make that little change or that little act of kindness now.
Exactly.
Anyways, let's get
Anyway,
back to the book.
so I did mention, and I promise I will not mention this again, but I did mention that this is another one of the remixed classics, like My Dear Henry that we did before. And I promise, guys, we're not going to go down the list, but like we're not going to read and review all of the books on this or in this collection, but we just really wanted to do these two.
Yeah, there's something about Wuthering Heights that just pulls you right in.
Yeah, there is something just about Wuthering Heights. It's always been that book that like I'm gonna be like melodramatic, but you know that I'm dramatic. You like to say that I'm dramatic, but like you have no idea. But Wuthering Heights has like always been the book that's kind of speaks to my soul the most. Like inside, it's all like misty fields in the morning and holding up expensive dresses to make it easier to run barefoot through the mud and like heartfelt confessions at midnight. Like my favorite love stories span centuries, and unfortunately I kind of believe that if love isn't excruciating then it isn't real, and like Cathy and Heathcliff were like poison to each other, um mostly because Cathy's a selfish cow, uh, but they're
Thank
like
you.
but like they're the embodiment of like soulmates. The world would cease to exist if something happened to one or the other of them. And like they're not good people. Like there's no excuse for like the way that they treat other people, or like the way that Heathcliff treats his son or like the kids or whatever. And like realistically, like this is not a couple to idolize, right? But like, oh God, I cannot get enough of them together.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to say Cathy was just not it for me. Like I very much disliked her character, very much
Have you
so.
ever read the original?
I have not.
Okay, I so this book is a remix, but also she made both Catherine and Heathcliff more likable. The characters are softer in this version, and they're more likable in this version than they are in the original.
What what's funny
You
is
think you dislike Cathy now?
I definitely did not like Cathy. Um and here's why. All right. She, as you said, was selfish. She was a selfish cow. Like everything about her just made my skin crawl. How are you going to sit there and say you love someone and yet you said the most hurtful thing to them? But also beyond that, you sat there and you claimed to love another. And the only reason you actually loved them was for security purposes. And oh, it took her way too long to write any of her mistakes. And I just like, girl, I take it seriously. When you say you love someone, like I take that very much fucking serious. And for her, oh, I love this one and I love that one. And I'm like, I'm gonna fucking strangle you. Sorry.
Yeah, I can see how you would think that.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, I will say I know that I said that in this book the characters are more likable. I do still want to say that the characters were very true. Um, like she captured the feeling of the story, the setting, Heathcliff and Catherine as characters. Like she captured them all so well that I didn't even get the remix aspect of it until halfway through. Like it is very much a Wuthering Heights story, and you can tell. Um, so even though I said that it's like kind of, because it's not watered down, it's just the edges are softened a bit.
Which, I mean, even still, I truly did like this remix. Like it did suck, not suck you in, but
It sucked me in.
okay. You know what? I've got to be honest here for a second. I wasn't even sure I was going to actually like this book
Mm-hmm.
because of the very beginning. I felt that like the first, I'd say, chapter was so fucking rough for me to get through. Just just hear me out. Like just the first sentences of this book. First comes a boy from nowhere. That's how it goes wrong. Before he comes, there's a house on the moors and the family inside it. Mother and a father, son and a daughter, all of them new to the village, or so people say. Like when I first read that, I'm like, all right, here we go. It's gonna be ba ba da ba da ba da ba da. And it's not gonna have any flow. It's gonna be too old timey, and it's not gonna make any fucking sense. But she quickly changed that pace and then made it like such like a smooth transition into such a good love story. Well, not even like a star-crossed lover story. And oh, bro, it really did eventually. It hooked me line and sinker.
You know what's funny? It is funny that you said that you did not like that the way that it was written, because I know exactly what you're talking about, and I loved it for that reason, because it was written like a poem. Like there's this little bit,
Yes.
I won't read a lot of it, I'll only read a little bit of it, but it says, I walk, creaking floorboards, thud of boots on flagstones, kitchens never silent, never empty, the hearth's crackling, cheery noise, cooking knives are out, fresh sharpened, my fingers twitch. Maybe you don't know what tale we're in, but I do. There's a boy from nowhere. And then this is where it goes on to that little bit. Um, so
Yes. That
so
is
yes, I get what you're saying. I loved it though. I mean, I it's so like artistic and beautiful.
I'm not saying
But I
I'm
get
not
why you
saying
had a
it.
hard time with it.
Yeah, I was just like I was in that oh no aspect of it. Like, is this gonna be the whole entire book? Because then I'm gonna really struggle to get into it.
I feel like you would have DNF'd it if it was, to be
I would
honest.
have killed myself. I maybe that's being a little bit dramatic, but
A little.
I
I thought I was the dramatic one.
feeling the dramatics today. But no, I definitely would have struggled a lot more than what I did. Like once I got past that part, like I put the book down like four times during that part
Oh
because I
my
was just
god.
like, oh, I just can't. I can't right now. And then I finally got through it and I was like, oh, well, that wasn't so bad.
You know what I thought, what else I thought was cool about the way it was written? So it's dual POV, and it's back and forth, Heathcliff, Catherine, Heathcliff, Catherine. But in Heathcliff's POV, he's talking directly to Catherine, and he's saying, do you remember when this happened? But it's exposition, right? He's not with her, he's talking to her. But when we're in Cathy's point of view, the it's just third person. So it's like, oh, I remember when Heathcliff did this or whatever. And I thought that that was so cool.
I actually kind of think it brought out the aspect of how selfish her character was versus his character.
I can
He made
absolutely see it. Yeah.
yeah, because I mean right there it showed she he was still part of her, but at the same time he was in the background. And meanwhile,
Yeah.
it was only her. For him, she was it. And
Yeah.
oh, bro, listen, just to skip ahead to favorite characters, Heathcliff was definitely mine.
Really?
The sheer amount of patience and understanding and just admiration he had for her. And then even though he got his heart broken, he still made it a point to make sure everything that he did was going to be better for her. He
Hmm.
wanted the best for her. And fuck, that was just so fucking romantic. It was like everything. I'll fight for you. I'll break my bones for you. Like, oh, like, sir,
I
bring a
know.
tear to my eye.
He said if I could lay the whole world at your feet, but or if I could, I'd lay the whole world at your feet, but all I've got is myself, and God help me, I'm not enough.
Ugh.
Ugh. Um, I don't know. Like, I will say, I know that you hate Cathy. I get why. Um, she's so in this time period, right? Like Catherine's presented with the choice that everyone is kind of presented with in life anyway, right? And it's that uh it's that do you are you true are you 100% true to yourself and go with what you want, or do you like is it your heart or your head, right? Like do you do the quote unquote smart choice of picking someone a life where you can make sure that you are not starving to death, or like if she chooses Heathcliff, there's a good chance that they will freeze to death, or like on the streets, or that they'll starve, or like whatever, they'll be shunned by society, they won't have any opportunities. Or she goes and she picks Linton, and right, that's his name, yes. I've never said that name out loud, so it sounded weird in my mouth. um or does she pick him, and he's a perfectly nice guy, like a little racist, and I can't handle that, but like some people are fine with it. um or like not even that, it's just he cares about what society thinks about him, right? And so like with a life with him, she would have food on her table, she would always be warm, she would have a whatever. But it's like there's a perfect section where she talks about it, and she's talking about the difference between Heathcliff and Linton. And she says, when I was around Heathcliff, I felt like I was all myself, all wild, all joyful and thorny. And then later on down the page, she says, I will not actually be able, she's talking about a life with Linton. She says, I will not actually be able to race my horse, of course, or run in the gardens, or go barefoot in the moors. And I will not be able to go to the crags or the fairy caves again. I will not be able to write my secrets into books. Catherine Linton will not be that kind of person. She won't want to do any of the things that Catherine Earnshaw yearned to do. I will have to be a good wife and a proper lady, and one day I will have to be a good mother too. And so like she's choosing between herself and her soul's love, and like a life with someone who's fine but can have her be comfortable and be I don't know. I both love and hate Catherine, and I always have.
Well, I think for me, I think I just resonated with Heathcliff a little bit more with
Yeah,
the feeling of not belonging. You
sure.
know, um, they said somewhere in there, I don't exactly remember how they said it, but basically, if you dress him like a gentleman, then they will believe that he is a gentleman. But that wasn't the case because of his skin.
Hmm.
So it was just like, you know, he made a comment of he finally was nowhere and maybe that's where he belongs. And it's like it was always one of those feelings for me when I was growing up. Like I was too light to be hanging out with the black people, but I was too dark to be hanging out with the white people. So it was like I never felt like I belonged anywhere. So I just
Yeah.
I really resonated with him as a person. Like you
Hmm.
you want to fight, you want to do everything you can, you want to make the one person that loves you you want them to feel proud of you, but you've got to fight through everything else just to get that little bit of, you know, I don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's why Hindley and Cathy's conversation after she sees the ghost is so heartbreaking, because it's like there's so many elements in there. Like she's finding out that her whole life she's been punished for something that's out of her control. And then the
Mm.
tragic reality that there are people now and have been throughout history that have had to bury who they really are to survive or to make it in society. Like there's so many documented cases of people. I know people who, you know, said that they were one thing when they were really another thing. Like I know people who have indigenous blood, you know, Native American blood, that they had to say that they were Mexican because they grew up in a time period when, you know, little indigenous children were taken away from their homes and excuse me, and families and stuff. And there's news articles about, you know, mirror girls. There's news articles about like little black women who were light enough to be passing, and you know, it was that no one can find out because if they do, we're dead, you know.
Yeah. And it's silly that that ever was a thing and it is still a thing, but unfortunately, here we are.
I yeah, I say it all the time and I'll say it again, like we have to see differences because we that's how we celebrate our differences. And I hate the fact that people like have had to and have to still put themselves into certain boxes to be accepted, when it's like, no, the things that make you different are the things that are gorgeous.
Unfortunately, not everybody sees it that way.
Yeah. So with all that being said, the story takes place in Yorkshire, which is in the northern part of England in 1786. There are a lot of historical elements in the story, and I highly suggest if you read this book that you read the author's notes in the back, because she goes into it a little bit more. Um, I love the Yorkshire accent. I love all of Northern England pretty much. I mean, there's a lot of different variations, but like I've even said to people, "Oh, I love the Teesside accent." And they're like, "Excuse me, we've never had it called beautiful before." And I'm like, Jamie Bell, like Frankenstein, like Jamie Bell narrated Frankenstein, and you can hear his accent in it, and I'm just like, ugh, melty.
Yeah, you are a sucker for an accent though.
Especially like Yorkshire. I just the way they draw out the vowels, like anyway. Uh, so you said that your favorite character was Heathcliff,
Yes.
and I totally understand why. Um, my favorite character was Mrs. Hussein.
Okay, okay. I could totally see that.
I aspire like that she's living the life that I want. Like she has a house that's open and people come and go as they need to, and like, you know, they pay for services when they can, or like I just love the idea of having a house where I can take care of people that need it. Like, oh, you're tired, go over there and sleep on the cot. Or like, oh, you need a shower's upstairs, dude. Are you hungry? I got some oatmeal or whatever, you know. I don't know. I love that. I want that so much. Did you have a favorite quote?
Um, let me let me see here. I know I did. Let me see if my thing will cooperate here. So one of my favorites was, "It is strange, so strange, accepting that our souls can be the way that they are, entwined like two old trees, and we can still be two separate people. We can still be so far apart that our dreams no longer touch, so distant that we hurt each other and run from each other."
Hmm.
So that was one of them.
Okay.
And of course, one of my all-time favorites. That's what friendship is. Debts that don't debts that don't end. They just go back and forth between people. So don't say no to mine. So, mhm.
Hmm.
But one of my others, this will be the last one. Um, when people hurt me, I don't want justice. I don't want them to feel an equal hurt. I want them to suffer 1,000 times more than I do. I dream about it all the time. I'm angry. Sometimes all I want is to cause pain so everyone feels like I do.
Oh.
Well, there's more to it. There's like a whole paragraph to that one, but I'll stop there because that sums up just about enough.
I can see it though. Those are some solid quotes, dude.
Dude, I literally highlighted almost an entire page at one point because it was so well said that I was just like, I love every bit of this. And yeah,
Mm. What part was it?
it was actually like, if I could, I'd send you a flock of birds to you, and I would send you my shadow and glass in windows and mirrors, watching to keep you safe. I would send gentle dreams and kind people and all the things you deserve and never had. Here in the heights where you should have been safe. I know now that I'd send my soul to you wherever you are, because wherever you are is where I belong.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was intertwined with that, intertwined with souls, with the trees, and it was just like my heart, man. Like this one, I wasn't emotional, but I mean, it was making me feel things that I didn't want to feel.
Yeah, this book very much did. There are so many, I won't go into it, but there were so many bits.
What about you? Did you have any favorite quotes? Like the
Yes.
whole thing?
Yes, the whole thing, pretty much. There's 33 annotations.
Not bad,
um,
not bad.
so there's one part where she's talking about Linton, and she says, how can he love me if he can't see Heathcliff? Heathcliff is me. Edgar only sees part of me. He's always only seen part of me. I feel strange realizing that. Of course, I've only ever shown him my best face, but I thought perhaps he knew the rest of me was still there.
Hmm.
And
I
then he and then Heathcliff says, all my life led to you. Oh my God. And then there's one part where Cathy, there's so many. I'm trying to scroll through. Um, there's one part where Cathy's talking to Heathcliff, and she says, if I could, I'd, oh, no, no, no. She says, Heathcliff, don't you know what you are to me? You're the earth that holds me steady and the sun that wakes me in the morning. You're the moonlight folding me in sleep. You're the way the wind fills my lungs when I run across the moors and the sea that fills my heart when I dream. You're the birds overhead and the deep roots of trees. Oh, you're the night sky that holds the stars up. To me, you're all the wild and true things that are everlasting.
Ugh, if only she could have just meant it.
No, I think she did. No, I mean, we won't go into it.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Blah, blah, blah. There's one she says, or one of them says, I know it's no excuse, I know, but you know how I am, how I always talk and talk, and half my words are vicious for nothing because I am vicious.
Mm, I feel that.
Um, but anyway, we are running out of time, so I'm just going to go into it. What Souls Are Made Of is part of the Remixed Classics collection. It was written by award-winning author Tasha Suri. Suri is also the author of the Burning Kingdoms trilogy and the books of Ampa duology. You can find her on her website, tashasuri.com, TASHASURI.com, where you can sign up for her newsletter, and on Instagram at Tasha Suri. Jen, what are we reading next week?
Next week, we are reading The Call of the Sea by Kate Schumacher.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Devilish Bookworms.
If you want to chat with us, be sure to check us out on Threads, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
You can also find our podcast on YouTube and wherever else you listen to podcasts.
We will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.